In the first meeting of four between the two crosstown rivals this season, the New York Knicks dominated the Brooklyn Nets in every facet of the game, and the Nets fall to 1-9 on the young season. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the channel. You're listening to the Brooklyn Boys Show live Monday, November 10th, the day before Veterans Day. Thank you to all who have served, who are serving. You guys make it possible for us to be here. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're just joining us on the show. Get questions, comments, thoughts, reactions in the chat, anything related to basketball. We'll pick those up in just a couple of minutes. Appreciate you all being with us. Spared a little bit of your Monday evening for the show. A very, very disappointing night last night where the Nets got decimated at the world's most famous arena. They didn't even put up a fight. Midway through that first quarter, the Nets looked like they were dead and they had no resurrection in them. All around, a bad effort. Yet another one of these ugly 20-plus point blowout losses. They continue to not be able to hang with good teams. We are now 10 games in to the 2025 season. Crazy to say it, early November, but we are an eighth of the way done with the Brooklyn Nets season. And you look around and you say, well, what has happened so far? And you're drawing blanks every which way you look, between a lack of wins, which you could have expected. I predicted this team to start 2-8 in their first 10. So not exactly, jaw-dropping that Brooklyn is 1-9 so far. I thought they'd maybe pull one out of the hat in one of these crazy comeback games, or they'd hang in randomly with some contending team. But no, the first win through the first 10 games, and the only win through the first 10 games, was to a terrible Indiana Pacers team that is injury decimated. But look, Nets fans, take wins any which way they come. Because, boy, if this is any indication about how the rest of the season plays out, you could be in for record-setting lows, not just in franchise history, but in NBA and in basketball history. We're talking record-setting lows. This team needs to figure out a way to see the development of the rookies, but stay in a couple of these battles against very tough opponents. We get to break all that down and so much more right here on the show. If you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button. Helps us grow better than anything, baby. We are 7 shy of 500. So if you could take a couple seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button. Completely free. Questions, drop those down in the comments for us to react to. I'll pull it up. It's not pretty. I warned you. Shield your eyes if they're not okay. You see a couple good performances from Drake Powell, his best performance at the NBA level for sure. 15 points in just 23 minutes, 5 of 8 from the field. He had a great day coming off the bench for Brooklyn after being recalled from Long Island. You look up at Day'Ron Sharpe. He barely played because he went off with an injury. They are projecting it to only be tightness. That is the absolute hope for Day'Ron Sharpe, who has had an awesome start to this year. You don't want to see him. You just saw Cam Thomas go out for about a month. Day'Ron Sharpe going out for an extended period would be a blow the Nets just cannot afford right now. So in the 12 minutes he played, he was perfect from the field, put in 10 points. He looked awesome. And then he gets hurt with what they're classifying as just tightness, but they didn't want to risk it. Obviously, it was a blowout game. No need to put him back into the lineup if he's not feeling 100%. So 100% get where the Nets are coming from a safety, from a security standpoint. I don't mind it at all. Hopefully you see Day'Ron out on the floor as soon as you possibly can. But besides Powell, besides pre-injury Day'Ron Sharpe, Michael Porter Jr. led the Nets in scoring again, which is the basis of what you expect without Cam Thomas. This team has no one else to turn to as that clear-cut scorer. So MPJ takes matters into his own hands. Not a bad night at all. 25 points in 26 minutes on 50% from the field, 4 of 9 from deep. So any day Michael Porter Jr. gives you those numbers and boosts his trade value, because deadline's only a couple months away at this point. You will absolutely take it from MPJ, but that's just such a tough contract to be able to trade out. You're likely looking at him sticking around through the end of the season at the bare minimum. But MPJ, a very solid day from the field and the key contributor to this Nets offense. But again, not saying very much for him. You had to see a lot of the bench yesterday. Certainly you did. Between EJ Liddell, between Tyrese Martin, who has been getting a lot of time, but Tyson Etienne getting his run. So was Jalen Wilson. So a lot of faces that you're not normally used to seeing on this Nets team, and for good reason. These two-way guys and Liddell and Etienne are unwatchable at the NBA level, let me be frank and be 100%. These guys do not deserve any playing time if the game is anywhere close. The Nets earlier today recalled Ben Saraf and Danny Wolf from Long Island. So that should be very, very interesting to see what kind of playing time they get, what kind of action they're seeing at the NBA level. So Danny Wolf and Ben Saraf, recalled from Long Island earlier today. And Saraf, you can imagine him being recalled to get some serious run of the guard spot with no Clowney. Yegor Gilman had a couple nights in a row off the bench. He looked solid as well. Finally starting to blossom into a little bit more of what we wanted to see. Remember, those first couple games into his NBA career was all threes and nothing else. Now he started to shift a little bit. He got downhill, had a couple crafty shots. He's still relying the backbone of his game as that three-point ball, but 10 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, and he's getting in the paint a little bit. A day I will absolutely take from him against a very tough overall New York Knicks team. So Yegor Gilman, let's continue to want to see the development of that. But other than him, the Nets don't have another guard at this point. They're playing Terrence Mann as one, but boy, the less of Terrence Mann I see on the floor, the happier I'll be. So Ben Saraf, please, by any means, get into that lineup. Get your way back here to Brooklyn after having, a solid performance on Long Island for their first 2 games of the season versus the Wizards G League affiliate. So positives to take away there. Really want to see Ben Saraf getting serious run off the bench, if not sneaking his way into that starting lineup. What you saw earlier in the season, just at the end of the day, man, limit the turnovers, keep that ball safe and sound, continue to try and work through shot selection, him and Gilman, both of them. And then you recall Danny Wolf, a very, very interesting one. Someone who Connor was at that game, told me that Wolf was very inefficient and didn't look like, a G League players at time on the court. He turned it around, had a good performance Sunday, is what reports out of Long Island are saying. And I think he put in 25 points on some good splits. So love to hear that from Danny Wolf. But NBA roster, NBA time, you're likely going nada on that. It's going to be tough to see a world in which he cracks the rotation for serious minutes now and continuously throughout the season. He's got to show a ton, does Danny Wolf, to be able to be considered for anything on this team, let alone turning it around from G League assignment to regularly getting minutes. That is going to be a very tough assignment for Danny Wolf, and one that he's going to have to work towards if that is the eventual goal for him. A tough Nets team to crack the roster on when the playing time actually matters. Maybe he gets run in the fourth quarter of games that the Nets are way out of, but at the end of the day, is that what you want to see out of the guy? I think I'd rather at that point keep him on Long Island, let him develop, let that shot hopefully improve and learn how to use his height. But I don't see a point in keeping him up in Brooklyn if your purpose is just to get him in the fourth quarter of blowout games. Smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Questions, comments, thoughts on Wolf, on Saraf, on this Nets team in the chat below. We will begin to getting to responding to those soon. That is a very, very tough New York Knicks team that I had to allude to here quickly and throw props their way. They shut the lights out, man. It's a terrible Nets team defensively. I will be the first in line to tell you that. They have the worst metrics in the NBA in defensive rating. It's all around bad. But the Knicks are a tough team and a force to be reckoned with in the East. 17 of 37 from deep. They were burying shot after shot. And I'll tell you, if you look at the box score and say 17 of 37, okay, great. But when it mattered in the first half, it was way more than that. If you watch the game, it felt like way more than that. I don't know if it's because the Knicks were consistently getting second chance opportunities. I don't know if it's because they were just shooting the hell out of it. But man, the Knicks were canning everything in that first half. Opened up a 18, I believe, point lead after the first quarter. Continued to grow that later on. But it continues to be how you finish out quarters, how you play to open games. And that's finished the first quarter on an 11-0 Knicks run. And how does that set you up for success? It doesn't. Nets couldn't score anything on the offensive end. And at the end of the day, this team turns a blind eye to considering scoring points. They reverse out of their ways of their comeback. Seems like that was just a 1 or 2 time thing between the Cavs game, between actually coming back against the Pacers, and let's see, there was one other game where they decided late game heroics. Atlanta and San Antonio. That's what I was looking for. One of the games they decided to have some late game heroics, but to no avail against these very solid teams. The Knicks, the Sixers, the Pistons all get blown out. That's the 6th time, I'll say it again. The Nets, out of 10 games, 6 times, it has been a complete and utter blowout that they weren't in for any part of the game. So that is unacceptable. That has to change. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. But man, are you already talking about the trade deadline here in early November? If not, a great New York Knicks team. Man, Karl-Anthony Towns, 28-12. He was a beast on the boards. Listen to this. Mitchell Robinson, 17 minutes played, 8 points, 8 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson in 17 minutes. Guess the plus minus. Plus 40. The Knicks dominate with Mitchell Robinson out on the floor. 5 of those 3 rebounds were offensive rebounds to reload possessions. The Knicks just flat out crushed the Nets on that end of the floor. And when you look at it, this Nets team with the tallest guy being Nick Claxton, and then after that it's Day'Ron Sharpe, who unfortunately, as I mentioned before, goes out in this game, so he's hurt. You don't have him the rest of the way. Who's the tallest guy on the floor after that? Is it Noah Clowney, who had to play 22 minutes? I actually don't know. So you gotta hope this Sharpe injury isn't anything more than a tweak and he's back against the Raptors tomorrow night. Because anything more, and you're talking about being in big time trouble in the paint, on the glass, this Nets team is not going to be able to compete without Day'Ron Sharpe in the lineup. Certainly not if he's out for an extended period of time. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, a couple away from 500. You could be the difference maker. Just think about it that way. So appreciate you all tuning in. Got 7 of you guys tuned in here live. Get questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. for us to react to, baby. Anything Brooklyn Nets, get those in. We'll react to it as we continue here on the show. Monday, November 10th. Nets fall to 1-9, big picture. And things are looking like they continue to go south. Drake Powell had the great game for Brooklyn. The Day'Ron Sharpe injury, the big time negative. Look, big picture once again. Tomorrow night, the Nets are back in Brooklyn against the Raptors. And then their next NBA Cup game is Friday night against Orlando. Excuse me, I had to cough there. Friday night against Orlando in Florida. A game where I think the Nets are lucky if they keep it within 20 here. You are likely looking at another 2 set of blowouts. Maybe, just maybe, you can somehow keep it competitive with Toronto. But against Orlando, man, against that Paolo Banchero team, I think there is just way too much on the plate for Brooklyn in terms of assignments defensively, in terms of figuring out scoring. Hopefully Day'Ron Sharpe is back, as we mentioned, but if not, that is a huge, huge burden on Nick Claxton. Continue to have to rely on Michael Porter Jr. Like, what if Michael Porter Jr. goes cold against the Knicks? And he put in 25 of their 98. So he scored a quarter of their points. If MPJ goes cold in, man, just one of these games, you are talking about complete and utter disaster. We talked about franchise lows, big picture on the season, in terms of win-loss, in terms of a lot of things, franchise and maybe even NBA records. Hopefully it doesn't get that bad. But you could be talking about single game franchise records, man. I remember when the Nets scored, 68 points last year against the Clippers in Los Angeles. Thankfully, that was a West Coast game that I just turned off immediately. But oh boy, could it have been bad if Michael Porter Jr. doesn't show up in one of these games? Where the hell did the Nets start scoring from? I'll pull it up again. Where does this team start scoring from? It would have to be Gioman. I don't see anybody else on this team. Shoot, they'd have to start putting in Tyrese Martin a game. For him to shot chuck, he goes 2 of 10 from the field in 25 minutes, 1 of 5 from 3. I don't understand why people are lobbying for Tyrese Martin to continue to get playing time. He was getting starting minutes all of last week. That should be the shocking thing more than anything. More than him being insufferable. Should be even more surprising that this coaching staff's like, oh yeah, perfect. Oh, guard troubles? Tyrese Martin, get in there. 30 minutes a night. That should solve things. Yeah, right, Jordy Fernandez. I'm not bought in, and there are people calling for his head 10 games into the season. I'm not there. I don't want this guy fired. He's shown you that he can be a great coach. This is a developmental year. I just don't think you can fire your coach when the GM has publicly come out and said, and the owner and everybody near the organization has publicly come out and said, oh yeah, it's a tanking year. Our intentions clearly aren't to win. How could you want the coach fired? Look at what he's working with and tell me that this is on Jordy Fernandez. I get it. The Nets have had problems. The rotations have been baffling, mind-boggling, befuddling. Insert adjective here. It has been straight up insane at points with this Tyrese Martin stuff, with this Jalen Wilson stuff. But no, you cannot call for the head coach's job 10 games into the season where the team has publicly stated they're not going to win. They know that. Why would they fire the coach? Maybe fire the GM that put this disgrace together. But firing the coach makes no sense. It has nothing to do with the root problem. So I don't understand. I will continue to get mad at the rotations where I see fit. But man, this team is just awful any way you look at it. Hopefully we see improvement. Hopefully more games like what Drake Powell put up. His 15 points in 23 minutes is what we continue to see down the line, because that's where you truly get the encouragement that this team can turn around at some point in the future. And even if it's not this team, but there are pieces in the building in Brooklyn right now that stick around long haul, that are here hopefully past this quick, short-lived rebuild, that are here far into the future when this Nets team is winning, when this Nets team is successful. You gotta hope that you at least have some pieces here, because taking DeBansta, Boozer, or Pedersen is great when you have guys around him. Getting a top 3 pick doesn't mean you're legit finals contenders because you got one guy in the building. It's great. You got your number 1 scorer. That solves the MPJ problem that we discussed. But it doesn't solve the roster issues. So you got to hope that at least a couple of these guys are permanently here for Brooklyn. And I think Powell has the opportunity to do that. Obviously, Tillman was the 8th pick. You got to hope he's able to do that. Sharp, ton of confidence in him. Zaire need to see more of. How about Noah Clowney? Boy, he really took a day off. 1 of 9 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3 after going in fuego versus the Pistons. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, the whole team scored 98 points, so you can't really nitpick terrible performances here. But let's just hope there's some sort of future right now that we're watching develop, and that's where I can start to believe in this coaching staff. Hit subscribe, a couple away from 500. If you're already subscribed, hit like, helps just as much and continues to grow us right here on the show. The big news of the day out of Nets world, coming actually from Long Island. Ben Saraf, Danny Wolf back with Brooklyn for their game tomorrow night against the Raptors. Let's do a quick little preview segment right here on the show before we wrap it up. Unless you have any final questions, comments, thoughts, we'll get to those in just a couple of minutes. Toronto's a gosh darn good basketball team. I think mostly what you want to see at this point in the season is night-to-night improvement. New York to Toronto. You got to see things get better. You got to see improvement on an individual level. It's not going to come as a team yet. Hopefully someday it does, but you know it's not going to come from a team level yet. You got to hope that this Nets team continues to grow individually. Like to see more Powell minutes. Hopefully Saraf plays an expanded role off the bench, although I don't know what their plan with him is coming back from Long Island. Danny Wolf's got to earn his minutes. He should not be just handed minutes because he had a couple good Long Island performances. Expect those two guys and all the rookies, not named Diego, to continue to fluctuate. Long Island, Brooklyn. I think this is a sort of situation where you saw that the Nets had a game against the Knicks where you knew those guys weren't getting any competitive minutes. And you also saw a game against Detroit for the NBA Cup Friday where you knew they weren't getting minutes. So best thing is to just send them down to Long Island for the weekend. They play Friday. They play Sunday. They're right back here for a midweek action Tuesday. So I like the philosophy behind that. Makes sense. I suppose that'll continue to be the ideals moving forward. Just compare and contrast those two schedules. Look at what makes more sense because he knew neither of those guys were getting meaningful minutes on perennial Eastern Conference Finals contenders on Brooklyn's schedule. So you send them down to Long Island. That makes sense there. But again, against Toronto, you just want to see improvement on the individual level. Let's see if Clowney can step it back up. Let's see if Claxton can step it up. I believe there's still not an official word on Day'Ron Sharpe. We'll get that to you as soon as we know. But the Nets get to play at home again after a little bit of a New York homestand. They will hit the road for Orlando. And then next Friday, it is Boston in season tournament action. So a lot going on here in Nets World and a lot to break down. Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. Let's get to the chat. Appreciate you all tuning in. Neo1YTE with some Drake lyrics for us here on a Monday morning. Appreciate it. Or Monday evening, actually. Thanks, Neo. Means a lot. Not actually sure who that is. Michael Cava. Or Cava. Excuse me if I'm not saying that properly. My Knicks just embarrass the Nets every single time they play, and it will continue to happen. Stop you in your tracks right there, Michael. Remember back in 2021 when the Nets were the super team and the Knicks were the team scrambling at the bottom of the conference? Oh, yeah. You do remember that. Gotcha. So just because the Knicks have won this series 9 times in a row, and I'm not afraid to admit that the Nets got humiliated. I'm not afraid to admit that the Knicks are clearly the better team right now. But you can't say that the Knicks embarrass the Nets every time they play when I'm assuming you remember the Knicks having 20 straight losing seasons, and I'm assuming you remember the Nets' big three equally humiliating the Knicks back in the 21-20 days when that big three was assembled. So just because you got your super team intact, just because you're finals contenders, doesn't mean you get to clown on your crosstown brothers. There was a time and place for that to happen. But certainly the reins and the throne has been thrown right back over to the New York Knicks as the crown jewel, probably of New York sports right now, as much as it pains me to say that. No good football. No good hockey. Especially not in that building. Rangers have been abysmal this year. There's fine baseball. Yankees aren't able to, make it past the Blue Jays who end up losing the Dodgers in the World Series, but they were just there. So, Knicks and Yankees probably competing for throne of baseball. I'll give it to the Yankees as of today, just because they went to the finals last season. Knicks didn't. Knicks got knocked out, so I will give the Yankees the throne in New York right now, but certainly up in the air. And then the only sport we missed was basketball. And let's be real, the Nets have no chance. As a lifelong Nets fan, have no problem admitting that. Unlike some of the people in this fan base, some of the people just hate talking up the Knicks, but not something I've ever just hated in my life. But as it continues to flow through, probably Knicks and Yankees there. Mets, no chance. Mets can't even make the playoffs. Mets can't, see their own footsteps between the starting rotations collapse, between the Juan Soto and all that stuff. The Mets truly have no chance. So yes, it pains me to say it, but the Knicks, as of right now, are the crown of New York sports. Appreciate you tuning in, Michael. I believe you're a first-time chatter, or at least I haven't seen you in the live chat here in a little while. So appreciate you tuning in to all 7 of you listening live in the building. Hit subscribe. We are oh so close. And then Michael follows that up. The Knicks are in championship form. I am not sold on that. They're certainly in Eastern Conference Finals control. If I were a betting man, that's where I would put my money. But ultimately, let's not kid ourselves. The winner of the West will end up taking home the Larry O'Brien Trophy. I think the Western Conference Finals is the NBA Finals in a sense this year. Man, you're talking about 6 teams there that you could easily see coming out of the pack in the West. And in the East, it's the Knicks and maybe the Cavs. So I truly do think winner of the West takes it all, but that's not to say the Knicks didn't look great last night, haven't looked great all season. They have. Appreciate you all tuning in here on a Monday morning. The Nets continue to play miserable basketball, but we will be here with you the whole time right here on this channel. Sub to it if you haven't done so yet. The Brooklyn Boys Show. Follow us on the Instagram, _Brooklyn Boys Show. That'll do it for me, your host, Josh Woolever, signing off on a Monday, November 10th edition of the show, saying let's not continue to go down this rabbit hole. We're an eighth of the way through the season. When do things start to pick up? tomorrow night against Toronto. See you then, and let's go Nets. Good night, everybody. Peace out. Thanks for joining us.